So how y'all doing? So I've been doing these random thoughts of the day, which limits me to a couple minutes. I'm going to spend a little bit more time explaining kind of what I've learned here in the last 2 years and what the goal is. So basically, we finish about 25,000 pigs per year. We have 5 million gallons. First barn was built 20 years ago. And the soil around the barns is really high in phosphorus, high fertility, and I want to be able to share the value of the manure across more acres. I want to be able to unlock the minerals from what my grandpa spread over the last 50 or 60 years. And to me, the answer is microbiology. We won't get into all the soil specifics. Honestly, I don't know a lot about soil, but what I do know is you get more leaves to capture sun, more liquid carbon in the ground, and it kind of unlocks it all. So anyway, I'm wanting to go to a wider row schematic for a couple reasons. First, logistically, the weight of manure is heavy, so we need more space to have bigger tires, more flotation in between the rows, and I want this eventually to control traffic. So this past year, we seeded wheat with the manure spreader with a little Gandy gravity box, and I wanted wider rows, but I wanted a wider row in itself. So we put a little deflector on here, and that deflected the seed up against the seed disc. So we've got about a 16-inch row, wide row. We had the covers in between, and those have died. Again, they've done the job to kind of suppress winter annual pressure, kind of grab some of that free ammonium, and then when it decomposes, we get rapid growth as we warm up. So this was last year. These are 37.5-inch rows, and you can see we pretty much filled in, especially when we were cloudy and rainy. We had soybeans growing in here that were up at this time, and they got a little leggy. And then I had to use a product called Palisade to shorten this wheat up a little bit and stiffen it up, which is an added input cost. I want to get away from that, so to be able to really capture that energy, we're just going to go wider and let it do its thing. So when we capture this manure, again, hog manure is much different than cattle manure or chicken manure or poultry manure. It's very high in ammonium right off the bat. So that's really what we're trying to do, is bury that into colder soil down low and have this plant uptake that, but then we get a different plant. We get tillers, and tillers are useless or they hurt at you in solid seeded rows. When it's wide, each tiller will compete with itself or jet out the side and capture sun, and then it becomes viable. And what I mean by viable is each leaf will make a head. So we can get a coefficient of 5 or 10 on the amount of seeds that we plant to the amount of heads that we get. So that's where the economics come in. We're only spending $10 or $15 in wheat seed, and we're getting a crop, which is that and manure. So if we look at the schematics, what we went to last year, we were dry. I had plans to build a planter, but we just went out and planted on top of the wheat sideways. It was just like when we top dress. We didn't do any damage to the wheat, so we got away with it. But this year we've actually made a specific planter to do this and to do some other jobs. So we've got our 60-inch wheat that's 16 inches wide. We're going to place the beans in a 19-inch twin row. Gives us plenty of room between that and the reduced manure underneath the wheat. But the 19 twins to the next 19 gives us 41 inches for combine tires. So much as, Class 6 to Class 9 combines are set on 120-inch row spacing. You take off the duals, put a fatter tire. We got plenty of room, even if we had belts, to go in here and just run over that wheat and be able to capture the wheat heads and leave the beans. So we're going to plant this Friday. We're plenty dry. The ground's going to be ice cold, but we're going to have a little warm up to get a little bit warmer water in there for the imbibing process. And this might freak some people out, but we're going to have the wheat protect it from frost, and this is why. So we've got the twin that's a little bit closer to the wheat. Now, in the time between the 20th to the 20th of April, our ground soil temperature is going to warm up. At the same time, our wheat will grow, and it will grow sideways. And by the time that that soybean emerges, and it's cotyledon is basically the old soybean seed, and that first fluffy leaf is the growing point. At that point, it's susceptible to frost. So we're going to have to get down to probably 25 degrees for that spot underneath the armpit of the wheat to warm up for frost. So it'll really protect that. So as we let that wheat really do its thing, it'll kind of compete against itself, and we form this plant architecture that's very unique in this context. You don't get it unless you're really trapping that ammonium energy and getting massive tillers. So we get a higher wheat heads in the center, the tillers jet out, and we get this enormous half circle, which gives us a similar surface area. So we're capturing sun in angles and side angles. But not only that, the width of the wheat allows more sun to infiltrate. So we're capturing sun almost the entire part of the day. If I were to twin row wheat in 30s or put in 15s, I'm only going to capture sunlight in a minute angle, 30 or 40 degrees. So only maybe from 10 to 2. This captures the whole day. The important part of that aspect is when we're placing this, in my context, high fertile soil, we don't get a soybean that gets leggy, that's really accelerating its growth vertically to capture that sun. When we plant it early, we don't have a lot of growing degree units early. We really stack these nodes up, and we get a much bulkier bean, which gives us the ability to have a much higher yield potential. So the other part of, we're capturing almost all sun up here. We talk about this 4-inch soil depth all the time. I don't really think it's relevant in the spring. We should be more worried about the inch or 2-inch temperature. We're going to have huge swings as the sun comes out during the day to allow that soybean seed to germinate and come up. And then the economics aspect. Cost of production. So, you know, if you talk to my grandpa or something, he just so set on the old way of growing wheat where we plant 3 bushel, we use commercial fertilizer, and yes, it does look beautiful. But if I've got $250 in raw input cost, and I compare that to where we're just putting a reduced rate of manure and capturing that value, whatever the difference is in that cost of production, you divide that by 5, and if we're 40 bushels less, we're in the same economic stance come July 1st. The difference then is, do we have this dead area of 40 days where we're waiting for the wheat to dry down and the double crops to establish itself, meanwhile planting 2 or 3 times more soybean seeds to establish a stand? Not really. If we've got 100 or 120,000 plants of soybean that are already in R2, there's no work done after harvest. We've got a solid field of soybeans ready to rock and roll. So giving up those bushels on the wheat aspect, but a lower cost of production with the same margin, we have a much higher yield potential with the soybean, so we've got a lot higher revenue potential. That's what we're chasing here. You combine the seed cost savings, the actual capturing the ammonium, but not only that, the old Joe Diffie song, cause and effect, chain of events, all of this chaos makes perfect sense. We build on to that concept of the plant multiplication now makes tillers, which captures sun all throughout the entire year. That's what we're chasing. Hopefully we made a little sense here, but what I'm seeing is you get more revenue, your cost of production's less, both on a seed, on a capture, and you put all this together, I'm seeing a $400 or so competitive advantage versus the status quo way of solid seeded wheat, solid seeded soybeans. Yeah, it looks pretty, and this is still kind of new in concept, but I think we can really get this better in the next few years, scale it up, and go from there. But anyway, thanks for watching. I think I got everything out that I wanted to say. Yeah. Okay. 2 people there. Any questions? Yeah, that's it. All right. Thanks for watching.